Good afternoon, everyone. If there are no mangrove forests, then the sea will have no meaning. It is like having a tree with no roots, for mangroves are the roots of the sea. This is something a fisherman from southern Thailand has said. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pranjali, coordinator of Project Mowgli at Haritima, the Environmental Society of Hansraj College. Today, we have all joined in for a virtual tour of the marvelous mangrove forests presented by the team of Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF India. WWF India is a non-governmental organization which is on a mission to protect critical species and ecoregions of national and global importance. Over the years, the efforts have been instrumental in protecting many critical species and habitats, from tiger conservation program conserving the marine ecosystem to mitigating climate change. WWF India has had various success stories. We welcomed Abhilash sir and Sameksha from their team at Haritima and request them to take us on this virtual tour of the mangroves. Over to you, sir.
All right. So I guess we have enough people on call, so we can start. Yeah. So a very warm welcome to you all, and it's wonderful that you guys are all here. And let me begin by introducing myself. So my name is Abhilash, and I'm currently living in Germany. So I'm a robotics engineer in profession, and when I'm not working, I read about wildlife conservation and sustainability. So yeah, joining me is Sameksha, who will now introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sameksha. I'm a student at Miranda House and I'm also a wildlife photographer. Abhilash and I are volunteers at WWF and we're a part of the project Magical Mangroves. So Abhilash, can you tell them more about it?
Yes, of course. So this presentation is about mangroves and its diversity and how you and I can be a part of the conservation efforts. And let's start by understanding, the role of WWF India and the Godrej Group in the conservation of mangroves. So before we begin, I'd like to tell that you can send your questions at any time on the chat box, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the video. So please do send questions if you have. All right. So WWF India envisions to reduce the degradation of Earth's natural environment and building a future in which humans live in harmony with nature. So our aim is for every citizen to be aware, sensitive, and is capable of creating a change through individual and community mobilization. So we as WWF volunteers, try to advocate and create a positive influence among the communities for the environment. So as you all know, Godrej Group is a household name and known to every citizen. And Godrej with its Godrej Mangroves program initiative take a lot of efforts to benefit the local wildlife, the fisher folk, and the citizens of Mumbai. So you can know more about Godrej Group from their website, mangroves.godrej.com. So before we move on to the next slide, let me ask you this one simple question. So what do you think mangroves are? So you can take maybe 30 seconds to think about it, and you can tell me whatever is coming to your mind. So what do you think mangroves are? Anyone? You can say whatever you feel like. I mean, there are no wrong answers here.
Sir, mangroves are the forests जो समंदर के किनारे शोर लाइन्स में पनपते हैं और भूमि उस टाइप के जो शोर लाइन्स में ज्यादातर जो मिट्टी होती है उनको प्रिजर्व मतलब वहां पे जो हम आता है मिट्टी जाता है इरोड हो जाता है उसको रोकते हैं और जो साइक्लोन्स वगैरह और आते हैं उसको भी वो बहुत हद तक मतलब ज्यादा डैमेज ना करें ह्यूमन सोसाइटी से भी मतलब उसको उससे भी बचाते हैं उनको। तो एक वाइड रोल है मैनग्रोव फॉरेस्ट का इन द कंजर्वेशन ऑफ नेचर।
Pratyush, बहुत बढ़िया. You explained it clearly. You know really good. You know really well about mangroves. So it's a great thing. Yeah. So I'll just give a brief introduction to mangroves. So mangroves are basically halophytes, which means that they are highly salt tolerant and grow in saline waters, and it can grow up to 14 or 15 meters as well. And these mangrove forests grow in intertidal regions, which means that the regions where oceans or the sea meets water. And to conserve these forests, there are specific techniques and are very different from the way we conserve terrestrial plants. And it's important that we understand how mangrove forests are conserved, right? And is anybody here from mangrove region, as in is anybody from the coastal regions here in the group?
Yes sir, I am from coastal region, from Odisha.
Which part of India are you from, Pratyush?
Odisha sir.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, you will see in the next slide the distribution of the mangroves across India. And as you can see from the map, West Bengal has the highest or the vast majority of the mangroves, which is followed by Gujarat and next Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And it's interesting to know that there are over 5,500 species of different animals and plants that are living in mangroves across the world. And it's important that we cannot grow mangroves just like any other plant in our own homes, because even though you have the right soil or you have the saline water with you, it's important that the other species which make up the entire ecosystem, such as the mud skipper fish or the fiddler crab, is also important in the nourishment or the growth of mangroves. So that's why it's important that we conserve the mangrove forests. And it's interesting to note that since 2006 there is a 13% rise in mangrove cover due to awareness activities, which brings huge hope in the future conservation projects. And now in the next video, let me show you a video which gives a good idea on mangroves and various aspects concerning its biodiversity and how mangroves adapt themselves in different environmental conditions. All right. So after this video, I'll prepare a short quiz for you guys, so that I can gauge your understanding of mangroves. Yeah. Go ahead, Sameksha.
Adaptations is change in body and behavior to survive and multiply. Being intertidal forest mangroves have many adaptations. For respiration, mangroves have unique adaptations. They have breathing roots, also called as pneumatophore roots. These roots help mangrove plant to breathe oxygen during low tide time. These roots arise from normal roots which are underground like other plants. Gaseous exchange takes place through small openings on these roots called lenticels. Stemmed roots or supporting roots help mangrove plant to anchor themselves firmly in very loose soils. Most of the mangrove plants have waxy coating on leaves as an adaptation in them. During high tide, lower portion of mangrove plants get submerged underwater for many hours. This cutaneous waxy coating acts as laminator and doesn't allow entry of saline water into leaves, which are most delicate part of plants. It is just like we used to do lamination to our books during rainy season. As mangroves are intertidal forest, they absorb water with high salt content. Therefore, this excess amount of salt which enters into the body gets excreted out with the help of salt excreting glands In a way, salt glands are similar to sweat glands of human body. Most of the higher plants are oviparous, means they produce seed which falls down and germinate in soil. However, mangroves are viviparous. They also produce seeds, but unlike other plants, seed remain attached to mother plant. Parent plant nurtures this baby, and after some months of maturity, it gets separated and grows as a new individual plant. This adaptation is essential in mangroves to reduce poor seed germination due to tidal water flow, not allowing seeds to germinate and anchor in soil. Mangrove being intertidal forest is very rich in terrestrial and coastal biodiversity. In India, we have more than 60 species of mangroves, more than 200 species of birds, many reptiles, hundreds of insect species, crabs, mammals. Few of the most dominant mangrove plants from western as well as eastern coast of India are mentioned here. This is one of the most dominant mangroves from western coast of India. It is named so due to grayish color of lower part of leaves. This plant can tolerate excess amount of salinity as well as pollution. Breathing roots of these plants helps them to survive in very challenging environment. Like other mangroves, this plant also stores heavy metal in the body and helps to reduce environmental pollutants. Its fruits are pickled by some coastal communities. Names suggest this mangrove plant requires less amount of salinity. That's why it grows only near riverine zone or where there is dominance of fresh water. Shape of the fruit of this mangrove is as chili. Therefore, in local language, this plant is called as mirchi mangrove. Cluster of its white beautiful flowers, rich with nectar, attracts honeybees and many insects. Once uncommon on Mumbai coast, this unique mangrove plant shows very special type of adaptation in their roots. Their roots arise from specific height of the trunk and percolate in the mud flat, giving extra support and anchoring to main plant body in very loose soil. Different species of fish and mollusks lay their eggs as well as young ones in between these dense networks of roots for the better protection from larger predators. Therefore, fishermen community prefer fishing activity nearby for better catch and obviously better economic benefit. It can survive in unstable conditions, so preferred as one of the first species in mangrove plantation projects. In many countries, its bark, rich with tannin, is used in leather industry. This mangrove species shows sexual dimorphism, means male and female plants are different. This plant, when damaged, secretes white-colored juice, which is sticky, and if accidentally enters in our eyes, it causes temporary blindness for few hours. However, this juice is medicinal and can be used on arthritis as well as leprosy in Ayurveda. One of the most diverse and economically important mangrove-associated species on both the coasts of India, miswak is most acceptable plant for different types of animals as their main food. During its fruiting season, it blooms with beautiful berries. These berries are edible for different types of birds as well as humans too. This economically important plant can be used in different Ayurvedic preparations and commonly used in oral healthcare products. Mangrove forest supports different types of flora and fauna. This ant mimicking mantis completely depends upon ants as its main food. It enters their territory and feeds on them. It remains camouflaged due to its unique shape and color. This weird-looking wriggly creature is mud skipper fish. It is predominantly found in mangrove habitat. Thus, it is called as mangrove indicator species. This fish can live outside water for hours during low tide time. Mud skippers have dual respiratory organs. During high tide, it uses its gills for respiration underwater. During low tide, it comes out from its burrow and skips on mud flat with the help of its strong fins for food, to mate and to guard its territory. During this time, it respires through its air pockets and skin. Mud skippers a protein-rich delicacy for the fisherfolk community. They are also very important part of the mangrove food chain. Along with many mammal species, this golden jackal can be found in mangrove forest. Its main food is different types of crabs, lizards, bird chicks, fruits, etc. It is both predator and scavenger. During summer season, to help animals, we can make such water holes to provide them fresh water for drinking. Scent indicator species in mangrove forest is this telescopium snail. Local community roasts this snail to consume their soft, protein-rich flesh. When empty, this shell is used by hermit crab as its protective home. This crab keeps changing this shell as they grow bigger and bigger. Thus, nothing goes waste in the ecosystem. Third and most important indicator species is fiddler crab, also called as single-clawed crab. A perfect example of food chain, this mud crab, also called as mangrove crab, uses fruits, seeds, and other foliage of mangrove plant as its main food. Crabs scavenge and recycle soil nutrients. Like this example, mangrove diversity is completely interdependent upon each other. These gastropods are part and parcel of mangrove biodiversity. When high tide rises, these gastropods climb on mangrove bark and they feed upon detritus material from mudflat. They are considered best on mangrove saplings in plantation projects. In this time-lapse clip, 11 hours are squeezed into 22 seconds. The clip shows how high tide and low tide cycles play a crucial role in shaping water flow, soil structure, biodiversity, and adaptations of mangroves. For the conservation of mangroves, formation of mangrove nursery is very essential. We can collect mangrove seeds, pods, propagules, saplings from mud flats and plant them in nursery. Similarly, mud can be collected from nearby creek. We can categorize different species of mangroves as per their salinity and soil requirement. After certain growth of mangrove saplings, we can replant them where mangrove restoration is essential. Mangrove nursery is also useful to show plant species that are otherwise remote and few in the ecosystem to people for awareness. Plantation of these mangrove saplings can be done in fishbone pattern or box pattern or by dipping method to ensure proper water supply during each high tide time.
All right, so I guess this video was very informative for you all, and it's time for a short quiz now. I'll ask you 3 questions and take about 30 seconds to answer them. So it's fairly easy. You should be able to answer these questions. Come on, guys. You still have 10 seconds. All right. So a couple of yeah, I see a lot of right answers as well as wrong answers. Um, yeah. So most of you are right. For the first question, mangrove swamps occur in warm climate near oceans because they are saline and they thrive there. And the second question being, is the Bengal tiger part of the mangrove biodiversity? So it was not part of the video here, but as West Bengal has the highest amount of mangrove forests, it is indeed part of the biodiversity. And third question is, mangroves fight climate change by storing what element? So it's obviously carbon, because none of the other elements have negative or too much impact on the climate. And mangroves have high absorbance of carbon or carbon dioxide. So thank you for answering uh, correctly. Yeah, we'll go to the next slide now. All right. So we need to understand now the benefits that we derive from mangroves. So the first being the wood, with its high density, it makes a great source for timber and fuel, and it also serves as a protective barrier for the coastal defense, which is five times more effective than the green infrastructure. And people like us, for example, there are close to 120 million or 12 crore people living in and around mangroves, so which is a lot. So we have to put a lot of efforts in conserving these mangrove forests. And mangroves also act as water filters, to treat the effluents coming from the aquaculture. So aquaculture, for those who don't know, is the rearing of aquatic plants and animals. So it acts as a great filtration for these effluents. And mangroves also have a lot of profit from the ecosystem services, so which is basically the provision of food, medicines, other resources, etc. So it is basically close to 800 billion US dollars per year, which is a lot. So yeah. And coming to tourism, mangroves also play a vital role in setting up the avenue for tourism. So there are over 2,000 mangrove related attractions globally. And the most important aspect of mangroves is its ability to regulate the climate. So since it has a high storage capacity for carbon dioxide, so which is close to 3 to 5 times higher than the tropical forest, it becomes an important carbon sink for our planet. And it's surprising that carbon dioxide released by global mangrove loss annually could be as high as the annual emissions of Australia. So you can think how effective mangroves are in terms of absorbing carbon dioxide. And not just humans, but also other species such as fishes, other gastropods or arthropods have a great ecosystem to thrive. For example, there are more than 3,000 fish species that are found in mangrove ecosystems. Next slide. All right, so let's look at the life with mangroves. And for some communities, mangroves are part of their religion. And we see temples in West Bengal having where people worship mangroves because they serve their livelihoods by providing them resources. And as you already know, that tourism plays a great role around mangroves, and it also develops or profits the tourism industry. Yeah, I guess I'm done here. So I'll invite my colleague Sameksha to talk about the rich biodiversity, and all the things that we can do to conserve the mangrove forest. So over to you, Sameksha.
Thank you, Abhilash. So, as we all saw, mangroves have a unique habitat and they support diverse animals from terrestrial, aquatic, as well as intertidal zone. And an intertidal zone is basically called a seashore, where the ocean meets the land and between high and low tides, right? These regions provide feeding, nesting, and breeding areas for resident as well as migrant species. As we saw in the video, these are a few more indicator species of the mangrove forests. The fiddler crab, mudskipper fish, telescopium snail, white-cheeked bulbul, and the salmon butterfly. Along with those indicator species, the Royal Bengal tiger, which is an endangered animal, adding to another reason why mangroves are so important, and why is it so? I mean, it's important to conserve them, right? And then we have the Indian rock python, flamingos, and the water monitor lizard. Now that we've understood the significance of mangroves ecosystem, let's have a look at the severe threats to these forests. The mangrove land is reclaimed for construction, and water pollution is caused because of domestic and industrial sewage, dumping of garbage and construction waste right near the swamps. Then we have agriculture and aquaculture replacing mangroves, which is technically fish farming, and excessive cutting of trees for firewood and timber and other uses such as furniture. And then we have another reason, that is poaching of wildlife, hunting, and all of those. In India, mangrove ecosystems are legally protected by the Coastal Regulation Zone Notification 2012 under the Environment Protection Act 1986. According to the notification, wetlands are categorized into different categories, and the destructive activities that we just discussed are prohibited in and around mangroves and wetlands. As you can see on your screen, important legislations that offer legal protection to mangroves are the Maharashtra Tree Act 1972, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, and the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, since we have an endangered species there. So now coming to how we can help as volunteers of environment societies and organizations, and what we can do for mangrove conservation. First being, we can take part in social campaigns, organize cleanup drives near coastal areas, and awareness meetings. We can conduct webinars and seminars in our college and localities. Given an opportunity, please do participate in research and development projects. Minimize the use of plastic and artificial products, and use more organic produce and locally sourced goods to reduce carbon footprint. Coming to waste management, we've always heard of 3 R's: reduce, recycle, and reuse. Add a few more R's and go the extra mile for conservation, those being rethink before you buy any product, if it's necessary or not. Refuse polythene and plastic bags. Refurbish old items in your apartment, your home. Repair and repurpose. Donate clothes, books, etc. Right? If you wish to learn more about mangroves, you can visit the Godrej Mangroves website and download the Mangroves app. Once downloaded, it can also be used offline. So if you were to visit any of the mangrove forests, you can look at the species, the ecosystem, and have a look at it without having to worry about network issues. And there's also a special for feedback, wherein the user can share the information, and it will be responded by the Godrej Mangroves team. Also, look out for NGOs and citizen groups in your city or town working for mangrove conservation, and join their nature trails, cleanup drives, presentations, etc. If you've been to or were to visit any of the mangrove forests or live near any of those areas and you've clicked some pictures, please do share your photos using the hashtags mentioned here, or you can tag Godrej Mangroves Project or WWF India. And you can take a quiz about mangroves to check how much information you've retained from today's webinar. So we have reached the end of the presentation. If you have any queries or questions for us, please do drop a message in the chat box and we'll revert to that. So please do let us know if you have any questions or queries. No questions?
I guess, yeah, I don't see questions here.
Okay. So in case if you have a question after the session, you can always contact us. We'll revert to that. Before we conclude, we would like to thank you all for being such a patient audience. And also a big thanks to Haritima's Project Mowgli for organizing this webinar and participating in the Magical Mangroves project. Oh, we have a question.
Do you plan field trips to mangrove areas? Yes, Mohammed. There are certain volunteers who conduct field trips as well. They are basically based out, in the coastal regions of our country. So so we do have field trips.
Yeah, you can have a look at the volunteers page on Instagram and check out if you want to participate in any. So before we end the session, can we all switch on our cameras so that we can take a nice group screenshot? And you can take a minute or two to get ready, have some water, stretch, and let's take a screenshot, all right?
Sameksha, you can close the screen.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
No one's switching on their cameras.
Nobody wants to be seen.
Oh, there are a few people switching on their cameras.
We'll use this for our documentation purposes, for our social media outreach and to spread messages across people.
Yes, you participated in a webinar for conservation, so that's a really good thing.
Sir, we have a question from Pratyush.
Okay.
How the industrial effluents affect the mangroves?
Since mangroves have different habitats, right? There are the intertidal regions as well as your swamp. Mangrove is a whole swamp. So it's very easy for these effluents to spread across, and animals can choke on it. And since fish farming is also a very important culture in the mangrove ecosystem, it can affect fishes and all of that. Abhilash, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes. So basically, industrial effluents have a lot of carbon, nitrogen, and other sulfur-based components. So these basically affect mangroves in terms of blocking, or maybe I could use a better word such as preventing growth, not just of mangroves but also the species that come with it. So so basically that.
I think that answers your question.
Yes.
Pratyush.
Yes. So I guess we can take
screenshot. Can
now.
Everybody please switch on their cameras just for a second? I can see a few of y'all switching on. Great.
All right. So we'll take the photo now in 3, 2, 1. Smile. You want to do that again, Sameksha?
I've clicked photos.
Yes.
Great. So thank you so much, everybody.
Do we have any more questions? Should we? Yeah. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of the webinar. On behalf of Project Mowgli and the entire team of Haritima, extend a very heartily gratitude to the WWF India's team, Sameksha and Abhilash sir, for joining us and for gracing their crucial work and taking us on this virtual tour of the mangroves. It has been an honor to share this platform with you. And I would also like to extend our warm thanks to the audience who joined us in this webinar and added enthusiastic colors. We hope to see you all again in future with Mowgli and Haritima. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Anjali, for hosting us and the Haritima Society for this wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.